So today's lesson is on comparison shopping, so we're going to be using the unit price and related measurement conversions. Our ICANN statement is I can solve problems by analyzing different unit rates given in tables, equations, and graphs. So remember, a table is when we organize in rows or columns, and it keeps going on a certain pattern. Equations means it has a left side and a right side, and a graph is just when I graph points on a coordinate plane. So unit rate, remember, that's when I have a ratio with 1 as the denominator. So it might be 2 miles per hour. Could be a ratio. Okay, let's go to our next one. So let's watch this short little video.
Hello. Today I'm going to talk about unit price shopping. I'll illustrate unit price shopping with Raisin Bran cereal, my favorite. When I go shopping at the grocery store, I generally try to get the least expensive product, or in this case, a box of Raisin Bran. This one is $4.05, and the one next to it, a little larger box, is $4.64. Initially, I look at the price and I think, I'll buy the $4.05 one. However, what you really have to do is compare the units. In this case, for the 20 ounces, it's $3.24 per pound. The 25.5 ounce box, however, is $2.91 per pound. So in the long run, although I'm paying a little more for my box of cereal, I'm getting more and paying less per pound, per unit. That's the importance of unit price shopping. That's all.
Alright, so let's continue with our lesson. So here's our first example, creating a table from equations. So the ratio of cups of blue paint to cups of red paint is 1 to 2, which means that for every cup of blue paint, there are 2 cups of red paint. In this case, the equation would be red equals, so this is going to be my important information, red equals 2 times blue, or red equals 2 times blue using just variables, where B is my blue paint, and R is my red paint. So my question is, make a table of the values below. I'm going to be organized by blue paint and by red paint. So let's look up here. Say my red paint is 2, my blue paint is 1. So I'm going to have 1 to 2, and I'm just going to extend that table. 2, whenever there's 1 cup of blue, there's 2 cups of red. My table is just going to keep on going that way. So now let's look at this question. Examine the table and identify the unit rate. Remember, unit rate is when I have a ratio with 1 as the denominator. So I'm going to look up here. I see there's a 1 here, which means there's going to be a 2 here. I just have my 1 to 2, and all I'm doing is I'm just switching it. So that's my unit rate. So let's check. Yeah, it's 2 to 1, but for every 2 cups of red paint, there's 1 cup of blue. Where else do you see the unit rate in our problem? Well, I want you to look. My question is, where else do I see this 2 in my problem? Do you see it anywhere? There's one spot you should see it. You should see it as the constant, or the number we are multiplying by. So if I look back in my original equation up here, I want you to see where this 2 pops out. This 2 is right here. The 2 is right there. So my constant, what I multiply by, is also going to be my unit rate. That's today's focus. Your constant is also your unit rate. Okay, let's look at this one. Ms. Sipley is a librarian who really enjoys reading. She can read 3/4 of a book in one day. The relationship can be represented by the equation 3/4 books, which can be written as days equals 3/4 times B, where B is the number of books and D is the number of days. So I'm going to make a table, because I'm still going from tables to equations, number of days and number of books. So my first day, she would read run. I'm going to look at my equation. How many books did she read? Well, she can read 3/4 of a book. So my first day, she's going to read 3/4 of the book. My second day, third day, fourth day, should be easy for you to fill out. This is my hard part. What do I do next? Well, there's 2 of these, so that means it's going to be 3/4 plus 3/4. Day 1, day 2, and I'm going to add them together. So that's going to be 6/4, or I can simplify it as 1 1/2. Day 3 is going to be the same thing, 6/4 plus 3/4. So when I add those together, I'm going to get 9/4. Or if I simplify, 2 and 1/4. Same thing over here, 12/4, because that's going to be adding 3/4 to this 9. It's going to give me 12/4 or 3. So I'm going to ask the same questions I did last time. Examine the table and identify the unit rate. My unit rate is right here. She can read 3/4 of a book per 1 day. Or I can rewrite it 3/4 per 1. So that is my unit rate. 3/4 of a book to 1 day. Where else do I see that unit rate? Well, you should notice that unit rate, that 3/4, is also what I'm multiplying by. See it here, see it here. So my 3/4, my unit rate, is my constant. It's what I multiply it by. So you can see each time I'm multiplying by 3/4. Just to show you, I have 2 times 3/4. That's going to be 6/4, which I see is right here. So my constant, whatever I'm multiplying by, is also my unit rate. Okay, let's look at these problems. I'm going to match them up. So I'm going to look first, and I'm going to pick an easy one. I'm just going to look at this graph. It's really easy for me to see that my unit rate is 1 to 60. So I'm going to look, and I'm going to see over here. Well, from my previous example, my unit rate is what I multiply by. So I'm going to look for an example where I'm multiplying by 60. So I see that 60's here. Where else do I see? Well, this one's going to be a little harder. Oh, I see it right here. I see a 1 and a 60. So there's one problem done. Let's see if there's another easy one. Well, right here, I see it's going to be 1, 65. And if I remember from my graphs, that's a ratio of 65 to 1, or 1 to 65, where I can just flip it. Either way. So now I need to look for an equation that has 65 as the number I'm multiplying by. And that's right up top. Perhaps it's right up top. Yeah, right there. Okay, so now let's check our next one. Do I see 65 anywhere over here? This is where it's going to get hard. You can see I don't have any more ones, so I'm going to have to find their unit rate. So I need to divide this by 3 and this by 3. This by 5, this by 5, this by 6, this by 6. So I'm going to start off here. 6 divided by 6, well, that is going to be 1. So I'm just going to make a note off to the side. This is going to be 1. And I divide this by 6, which is 70. I'm going to divide this by 2 to get 1, and this by 2, which will give me 65. And look, there's my first one to match up. It's right there. Okay, let's look for my next one. Well, now I have another easy one. Oops, I'm going to leave that here. 1 over 70, just so I don't have to redo my work. This I'm going to divide by 8 by 8. That's going to be 1 over 50. This one I'm going to divide by 3 and by 3. This one I'll divide by, oh look, I can do an easy one, 10 and 10. So that's going to be 1 over 55. And this is going to be 1 over 45. So now that I have all that work, it's easy for me to now go. So here I see 1 and 45. So that means this one's going to match right here. And where's my 45? See, that 45 is right up top. So it's also going to match. Where does this one go? Well, I'm going to see if I see a 70. I don't see a 7 anywhere. So let's go with this graph. 1 to 55. So where do I see my 55? Oh, right here. And there's my coefficient. My unit rate is at 55. So let's keep looking. These ones are a little harder because I don't have a unit rate here, but I can still match them up. I see 8 to 40, and look, that matches this number right here, 8 to 40. And what was its unit rate? Well, its unit rate was 1 to 50, so I'm going to match that 50 up. Remember, the unit rate is what I'm multiplying by, which leaves my last one. This should be 70. Let's just check, though. I'm going to look. That's 6 to 420. I see that right there. So it's just justifying. So there are my answers. Okay, let's go to the next one. Brian and Shanice are both training for a bike race and want to compare who rides his or her bike at a faster rate. Both bikers use apps on their phone to record the time and distance of their bikes. Brian's app keeps track of his route in a table, and Shanice's app presents it as a graph. Use the information below to answer your questions. So my first question is this: at what rate do each of them travel? So what's their unit rate? How far would they go with a denominator of 1? Well, I can look here and I see this is 1, and I look over and I see it's 15, so that's going to be a ratio of 1 hour to 15 miles. Brian's, though, I don't have a 1 here, so I need to make a 1. And how do I get from 3 to 1? Well, I divide by 3. How do I get from 75 to whatever this mystery number is? Well, I do the same thing. I divide by 3, so that's going to be 25. So Brian's is 1 hour for 25 miles. I'm sorry, 1 hour and 25 miles. So let's just check just to make sure. I'm dividing by 3, and I see there's that 15 right there. So now let's continue on the next page. So now, what if I wanted to make a graph to show how fast Shanice would have to travel? Because right now she's traveling a little bit slower, and I want to know, what if she wants to travel faster than Brian? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start, get my labels ready, and I know she needs to travel faster than 15, because that's what she's traveling at now. She also needs to travel faster than 25. So what's faster than 25? Well, 30. So you can see I go 1, and then up to my 30 now. So now she's traveling faster than Brian. Okay, let's go to our next one. Braylene and Tice both work at a department store and are paid by the hour. The manager told the boys that they both earn the same amount of money per hour, but Braylene and Tice do not agree. Alright. Braylene and Tice both work at a department store and are paid by the hour. The manager told the boys they both earn the same amount of money per hour, but Braylene and Tice did not agree. They each kept track of how much they earned in order to determine if the manager was correct. Their data is shown below. We're going to continue this on the next page. So Braylene said that he had an equation of money equals $10.50 times H. So his money equals $10.50 times the number of hours he worked. Tice decided that he was going to keep track of a table. So after 3 hours, he was paid $34.50. For 6 hours, he was paid $69. Okay, so let's continue on the next page. Alright, so here's our same information. How much did each person earn in 1 hour? Well, I know Braylene's unit rate is whatever I'm multiplying by, so I know his unit rate is $10.50. That is his unit rate, how much he's earning. What about Tice? Well, I need to make it so I have a 1 in my table. I don't know how much this would be. So what do? I'm going to divide it by 3. Divide this by 3, and I get $11.50. So my question is, was the manager correct? He was not correct. Why? Well, because Tice is earning $1 more per hour than Brian is. Okay, let's look at our next one. Claire and Kate are entering a cup stacking contest. Both girls have the same strategy: stack the cups at a constant rate so they do not slow down at the end of the race. While practicing, they kept track of their progress, which is shown below. So here we have a graph of Claire's. So after 1 second, she stacked 5. After 2 seconds, she stacked 10 cups, and it keeps on going. Kate has this equation that she found. Cups equals 4 times T. So cups equals 4 times the time. So what am I going to do? Okay, so I need to find their rates. So Claire's rate, well, that's 5 cups a second, because I see there's the 1, and here's my 5. So let's check it compared to Kate's. Kate's is what? Kate's is 4 cups a second. So are they the same? No, Kate's actually going a little bit slower. So what if I want to make Kate an equation to let her know how fast she has to stack? Well, her unit rate would have to be bigger than 5. So here's an example. Cups equals 6 times T. So that means she's stacking 6 cups every 1 second. Her unit rate is 6 cups per 1 second. Okay, so here's our lesson summary. It's the most important idea yet we've worked with. When we're comparing rates and ratios, it is best to find the unit rate. So we're almost always going to look for that unit rate when we compare rates and ratios. It's going to be our easiest way. Comparing unit rates can happen across tables, graphs, and equations. All right, what you're going to do is you're going to go on Khan Academy. You're going to solve or do 2 lessons. Then when you are done, you can do math games. Any math game on our class website. That includes Ratio Rumble and our other ratio games as well. All right.